I'm Sophie, and I am one of the 3.3 million children who are faced to engage in child labor among the Middle Eastern and North African regions. Today, I'm going to tell you about my experience as well as those of millions of others who are forced into child labor and modern slavery. In the Middle East, 3.4% of children engage in child labor. Among the 22 countries that make up the Middle East and North African region, Pakistan, Sudan, and my home country, Afghanistan, are known to hold the most barbaric conditions of child labor in the world. In many well-developed countries, the focus for children is based on providing foundations for a strong education and play to promote bright futures and successful development. However, in more underdeveloped countries such as those within the Middle East, poverty, political insecurity, and warfare are known to be the most prevalent factors forcing children within these countries into child labor and slavery. In my country of Afghanistan, children take up the largest part of the nation's workforce in the brick production industry.
They didn't even make the sound.
Myself, as well as my 4 siblings, have been working in this industry since the age of 8 years old, but children of Afghanistan are eligible to work as young as 5 years old. Thousands of Afghan children experience working in hazardous conditions and are expected to work extremely long hours with very little or no pay.
I ain't never gonna shut you out.
Remaining as one of the poorest countries in the world, Afghanistan children are forced into the labor market at extremely young ages to support their families. Managing the demands of work and school are extremely challenging. My 2 older brothers dropped out of school at the age of 8 years old to help support my family. Several of my friends have stopped going to school to work as well. I am currently one of the very few children who attend school and work on a daily basis, but I believe my education will soon come to an end. Middle Eastern children forced into child labor and slavery experience extreme hardships that hold a significantly negative impact on their health and well-being. Children holding jobs in the agricultural and industrial sectors experience working long hours, up to 18 hours a day, in extremely poor environmental conditions. Dehydration, fatigue, and unconsciousness are just some of the life-threatening experiences we experience each day at work. Many of these poor conditions also increase the risk of physical injury, long-term developmental harm, psychological strains, and even death. Within the current crisis today, thousands of Syrian children are being sold into modern slavery. Warfare is seen as means of labor in many Middle Eastern countries. Children sold into slavery also experience poor working conditions as well as numerous physical and mental constraints. Children of modern slavery are also victims of physical and sexual abuse and suffer from emotional and psychological distress. Countries with the growth of radical groups within the Middle East have recruited, trained, and deployed young children, forcing them into working in the most life-threatening situations. These children, who are typically young males, are at risk of death and are commonly persuaded into participating in suicide bombings. Soldiers of these radical groups also use children as human shields during battle and have them carry out violent acts of assassinations and beheadings. These horrific acts can increase mental and psychological issues within these young children. Occupational justice is defined as a justice that recognizes occupational rights to inclusive participation in everyday occupations for all persons in society, regardless of age, ability, gender, social, or other differences. Unfortunately, for us children of the Middle East, we are deprived occupational justice. The extremely hazardous and poor working conditions we face each day implement both moral and ethical conflict. The high poverty populations within our country pressure us into choosing between furthering our education or supporting our families. Although government laws and international organizations have been established to help decrease the percentage of child labor and slavery, much more needs to be done. Child labor takes away a child's opportunity for growth in education, play, and social participation. All children have the right to engage in meaningful occupations that will help contribute to their growth and development in the future.